and look ahead to the City game. Go through our team selection for the Etihad, guys. Joe, I'll start with you in terms of your broad thinking for the squad. Jurgen Klopp's going to go strong here, isn't he? Liverpool want this double over City.
Yeah, it's a bit boring. I think it's just almost the same again, isn't it? The team got the job done so well and so impressively against Palace, and it was pretty much on paper the strongest team you're going to put out for Liverpool. I do think there are players like Keita always remain this sort of like that you think, oh, could he give them a little bit more of an edge in midfield? But I think travelling to City, that midfield three of Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, and Gini Wijnaldum, it's got to be that midfield. They give you everything. They give you strength. They give you leadership, and that they can create as well. So that the other parts of the team practically pick themselves, don't they? The front three and the boss. Yeah, I think it is just a case of same again, and they've had a nice break as well between the two games.
Yeah, it does feel that way. Obviously, an 8-day break. So are we all that we're all going with Alisson in goal? I take it there's no objection to that, is there, Matt?
No, definitely not. No, I completely agree with Joe. I think it is more important than some people might think, and I suppose Keita is probably the sort of question mark. Do you bring him back in? But it would be very, very harsh, I think, on Wijnaldum. So yeah, I'd be certainly expecting Alisson in goal, and probably the rest of the team very similar too.
Yeah, that back four then, Theo, Trent, Van Dijk, Gomez and Andy Robertson. It does seem to be the one since even the beginning of last season has become the real first choice. Joel Matip, of course, has that ability to play into the midfield, but up against City, Liverpool are going to want to lock it down as much as they can defensively.
Well, I think Joel Matip's still out. I don't think he's returned to training yet. So the alternatives are Dejan Lovren. He obviously has played a lot against Manchester City in the past. He normally starts against them for injury or whatever reasons. But this Liverpool back four have made the spaces in the squad their own. The only reason Joe Gomez hasn't cemented it even more than he already has is because he's had untimely injuries. And we all heard from Virgil van Dijk in the past how much he was playing alongside Gomez. Premier League title might be won, but the Golden Glove Award isn't yet. So they'll be wanting to get as many clean sheets as possible between now and the rest of the season. At the other end of the pitch, it's going to be the exact same for Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane going for the Gold Boot, so no reason to change there. The only difference I'd say maybe in midfield is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, just because he's been so good when he's had the opportunity against Manchester City in the past. But it's a big challenge for what we deem to be Liverpool's strongest midfield trio, just because I think it was Atletico, wasn't it? That was like the first game they'd been played as a trio, despite it's on paper Liverpool's strongest 11, and they didn't perform. They've only really been lined up together 2 or 3 times. And Manchester City is a different proposition to Crystal Palace at home. So you want to see what's your strongest midfield on paper, going out and doing it against one of the strongest teams on the country, just to say, yeah, this is a dominant team. They are strongest 11. Let's see what they do. They can do it against any sort of opposition. But at the same time, Jurgen Klopp's got his squad depth, so he doesn't have to stick with the same 11 week in, week out. And I'm sure we'll see that between now and the rest of the season. Liverpool's strength is in defence. There's no reason to change that back five unless you want to give other players opportunity to rest the legs if they're tired. But when you've had 8 days off and a couple of them were celebrating, it should be fine to be same again.
Yeah, and that's from the defensive point of view. Rather than Liverpool's selection, there's going to be no Sergio Aguero, who, as we know, does often like to turn up against Liverpool, certainly at the Etihad.
Yeah, he torments Liverpool. He does. I think forgotten goals, the form when Liverpool won 4-1, he scored a superb goal in that. And then, of course, there's that one from the tight angle against Reina. So, delighted. I hope it's not a bad thing. I hope he's back. I love him as a player. I think he's brilliant. I think as a pro, he's great. And he's a sort of guy that represents your club so well. But I am delighted he's missing this game. He's just a menace when he plays against Liverpool. But you know what? The Golden Glove. I think does Alisson lead the way now in the race for the Golden Glove?
Yeah, I think he's 1 or 2 ahead, something like that.
Yeah, 12 clean sheets from 22 games. Yeah,
that's nuts, isn't it? Considering the amount of games missed, it's phenomenal, and it speaks volumes. As much as I think Adrian has done an admirable job since he's come in, it speaks volumes about just how good Alisson is with that back four. He puts Liverpool up another level. So win that golden, it would sort of underline his status for me as the best in world football.
Matt, on the midfield three, then, do you think it will be that de facto first choice of Firmino, Henderson, Wijnaldum, or do you think there's a chance that Keita or even, as Theo mentioned, Ox might get a run out?
It is a difficult one. It's obviously a place where Jurgen Klopp's got a lot of options. I might be tempted by Naby Keita, but I think Gini Wijnaldum would be probably the slightly safer option. I think that's the one that Jurgen Klopp will go with. I think Naby Keita maybe could come off the bench and do something potentially later in the game. Yeah, you look at how well those three played against Crystal Palace, the fact that there's been 8 days between them, there's no real danger of sort of burning out or anything like that because they've had these 3 months off. So yeah, I'd be surprised if it was anything other than those three. And I suppose the time to experiment with different players, whether that's Keita, whether that's Minamino, Chamberlain, whoever, the time for that is probably not Manchester City away. It's probably the other game.
Yeah, especially in midfield where Liverpool are going to be wanting to get the ball back as much as possible from City's slick passes. But into the forward three, come back to you on this, Joe. And it was a statistic that absolutely blew my mind on Derby when it was put on the TV by Sky Sports, that Mohamed Salah has only scored 2 away goals in the Premier League this season. It seems absolutely mind-boggling, yet there's no chance he's not going to be playing at City, is there?
That's the first time I've heard that. Is that true? Yeah, I didn't see that flash up on the screen. Yeah, very strange. But he's had one hell of a season, hasn't he? And I think it kind of gets forgotten. Salah just tots up, going out of fashion, and yeah, he's had one great season. He will definitely start. Thought he was good against Palace again. Yeah, there's no those sorts of statistics sometimes be little anomalies. He's missed games through injury and whatnot. Obviously, he didn't play a good, doesn't he? So I don't think there's any. He's always your first goal scorer. Bet if you're a better man, isn't he? And so for me, yeah, he's got to start against City.
Yeah, 17 Premier League goals for him this season, 15 at Anfield, just 2 away from home. But Theo, I suppose the only other player who's sort of been up for debate since that restart kicked off is Roberto Firmino and Takumi Minamino. But I suppose, as Matt suggested before, Man City away probably isn't the time for experiment.
No, and as you've just mentioned, that Salah stat, isn't it? Firmino's the opposite, isn't he? He's not scored a Premier League goal at Anfield. So Liverpool do get the wins. It's not as though they've lost games and dropped lots of points. It's just maybe defences are focusing on different players depending on whether they're home or away. That suits different style, different tactics. Firmino's got some big goals in big away games this season. The one that springs to mind for me is probably Tottenham away. That was a big win at an important time of the season for Liverpool. But we've seen when Liverpool's front three is on form, pieced together, it is cool to watch. And it was the 4th goal against Crystal Palace when they all just clicked together so beautifully to score a great team goal. You can't compete with that. You might have your players you're trying to mould into being these alternatives like Minamino, and there will be chances for him between now and the rest of the season because he needs to get that more game time. But he is more a signing for next season. It's all about this front three now when you're making these games against Manchester City. And they've all had fun at the before against Manchester City before, haven't they? Just the Champions League game a couple of years ago in the quarter-final, was that Salah and Firmino scoring there. They've all had fun against them at Anfield. We've seen Pep Guardiola, wasn't it, on the Man City document on Amazon, how much he fears this front three. You might as well give them a few nightmares again, even though the Premier League title's already won. Unleash them and see what they can do when you can tell they've been missing not playing football. That the fact they could just be unleashed against Crystal. Look forward to playing together, and now they're going to do it against that next level opposition and just finish the season strongly before going again and hopefully adding more silverware next season.
Yeah, certainly. Let's whip round then for our match predictions. I'll kick things off, and I reckon it's going to be 2-1 to Liverpool on Thursday at the Etihad. Matt, what are you saying?
I'm going to go for 1 each, actually. I think a draw isn't a bad result for Liverpool. I think probably for Manchester City as well, they'll be quite relieved not to get beat. I think it could be an entertaining game, but I think maybe by the end, both teams will be fairly content with a point. So, yeah, I'm going to go for 1-1.
Theo?
I'm going to go 1-0 Liverpool, just because I Man City are lacking something without a striker at the moment. Granted, they've got Gabriel Jesus, but it's not quite the same for them as Sergio Aguero. We know Raheem Sterling's woes against Liverpool in the past. Mahrez looks on form, granted, and De Bruyne sensation, even though looking a bit tired at times. But I think Liverpool will be full of confidence. The defence just looks impressive and solid as ever, and I think they'll want to get that clean sheet. It's the sort of game where if he was fit, you'd say James Milner penalty against his club, and that would decide it. So maybe it would be a Mohamed Salah penalty or something like that instead.
And Joe?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth about this game, but I'm now starting to go with you, Guy, and just got a sneaky feeling that Liverpool are going to head up and just show you just why they're champ on Thursday night and put in a sort of like dominant display, a 2-1 win.
Yeah, well, we hope that is the case. Of course, there'll be plenty coming up across the Liverpool Echo and here on the Bloodred channel ahead of that game on Thursday. Analysing Anfield will be with you tomorrow. And then after the game, of course, with the live blog on the Echo website, we'll have the post-game podcast. Hope you can join us then. But for myself, Guy Clark, Matt Addison, Steve Squires and Joe Rimmer, thanks for your time and your company. It's bye for now.